and welcome to This Week in Laker Football, your exclusive weekly look into the West Bloomfield Lakers varsity football team all throughout the season. I'm your host, Tyler Kieft, alongside Zach Hilbers on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. Coach, coming off a 44-0 victory and quite a way to come back out and bounce back from those two consecutive losses.
Yeah, it certainly was. I told the kids, winning's hard. I don't care what it looks like at the end of the game, like the preparation that goes into it. You got to do things the right way all week. So I was really proud of them for, after coming off an emotional loss against Adams, kind of bouncing back the way they did for homecoming.
And it was an impressive showing right from the jump, the defense getting out and taking care of business early on against the Southfield offense that was starting to build a little bit of chemistry in the past couple of weeks and definitely showed a few weeks back their scoring abilities. How proud were you of your defense for setting the tone really from the very jump of that ball game?
Really proud. I think they needed it after the way the Adams game ended, with Adams kind of having that long, soul-sucking drive to take the lead. I gave Southfield a ton of credit in our film sessions. At the end of the half, they really had a long, sustained drive themselves to got down maybe into our 10-yard line or so, and we were able to come up with a big interception right before half, which really was, in my opinion, one of the final turning points of the game.
That was what was interesting, too, about that defensive performance is your playmakers showed up, but some other players that have been making key plays kind of in the shadows throughout the season made some big plays there. You talk about that interception from Kalik Robinson and others who showed up on the defensive side throughout the game really also had a very big performance that helped you make that a shutout.
Yeah, I was really happy for Kalik. He's worked really hard. He kind of was a fifth-quarter kid last year, split time on varsity as a sophomore. Didn't play a ton, but we thought learned a lot from the guys ahead of him. And he's worked hard all offseason, so to get rewarded like that's pretty cool. I'm really happy for him. Other guys like Josh Bryan, I think, got in there, got a sack. We had other linebackers coming in, rotating in, making plays. It was good to get those guys experience.
And to get them experience, too, kind of mixed in with the starters, mixed in with that first string, and seeing what can really happen when you have that depth build over the course of the season. How did that sort of serve as a lesson for the younger players on this team about how the depth of this program can really be an asset to your team going forward the rest of this year?
Well, yeah, it's really crucial. You never know who's going to get hurt, whether it's a cramp or a sprained ankle. They need a few plays, or, it's a more serious injury where you might need a few games. But you need people at least ready to step up and play, whether that's knowing what to do or just getting used to the speed of the game. They got to be ready for both.
Something I noticed throughout that 44-0 victory is every time it seemed like we went to a shot of your guys on the sideline, everyone was focused, even up 30-0 or 44-0 late in the ball game. It didn't seem like anyone was in a rah-rah mood. They were laser focused on the 48 minutes ahead. How did those last 2 weeks really instill that lesson in your team that they need to be focused from the jump to the finish?
Well, you have to kind of see it through, otherwise, 'cause you never know what's going to happen if you're in a football game. So I'm glad about that. And really, when we were able to put some of the other guys into the game, I'm glad the starters, I tell them, these guys support you most every other game. You're going to get up there, you're paying attention, you're going to support them just as much. So that was kind of the focus when we put those guys in the game. Just be there, help them learn, cheer them on, and just really be a good team.
Offensively, clearly on the scoreboard it shows it, but even just by the numbers and by watching the play of your offense, it seemed like they were really in tune this week, and that really began from your quarterback, Bo Jackson, his most efficient game of the season, 5 for 8 passing, over 100 yards, a touchdown, not a single interception, or one that was really in range of being picked off. How impressive of a game was that for number 8?
He did really well, and I thought he played pretty well against Adams, save one throw in that opening, second drive where we had a turnover in the red zone. So, he's putting together a few good games. Jamal played really well, too, when he got his chances out there. And our special teams really did a good job of giving us really short fields. So, give the offense credit for finishing drives, but we had a shorter field to go for most of the game because our special teams unit did so well.
And on the topic of special teams, you talk about how they place your defense in opportune positions. That comes down to skill and precision from guys like Jaden on the punting side and then Justin on the kicking side. I mean, coming into that game for the first 3 weeks, perfect on PATs, just a different situation there with that one miss, and got a chance at a decent decently long field goal. How important can special teams really be when it comes down to it, putting you in opportune positions to make plays, especially as we get into the thick of this OAA Red schedule?
It's definitely important. I don't just say that because I coach it, as with the team. But when it gets to close games, it can be a sway either way. Obviously, you think of the big plays on offense or big turnovers or sways on defense. But I really think the game against Utica Eisenhower last year, for example, in the district finals, that was won on special teams with punt returns and then kickoff recoveries that we got that really flipped the field against what otherwise was a really close game that was like back and forth. But our special teams really kind of dominated. And then the next week in the regional finals against Clarkston, it looked like we had a special teams mishap on kickoff, but we went down and blocked their last second field goal attempt. So, it can really, really matter.
And it's a great way, too, for these younger players on the team to show what they're made of and make some plays and be impressive. That's what happened in that past game last week, a muffed punt return that ended up setting you up in really opportune field position. The bad snap on the punt that led to Jamal getting into the end zone. You see the effect that special teams has. It gets discounted, but there's a reason they say football has 3 phases. That's certainly it. End of this ball game, it's 44-0. It's against a tough opponent. It's kind of on the younger side and redeveloping. Now you refocus going forward. Coming out of this game, what do you think your team learned that's going to help you propel into these next few weeks as you go in this week to Clarkston and then see Lake Orion and Oxford coming back to the Swamp?
Well, I guess that we could be pretty good when we play well and we play clean. And it probably won't have a game the next couple of weeks that looks like that. You never know. But we know that we can be pretty good. And we know from playing at Adams and losing to Adams that we can go toe-to-toe with really good teams. It's just about getting over that hump, and that's really our focus the next 3 weeks.
Talked a lot about defense already today. We'll continue to talk about defense coming up after this break. Then later on, stick with us. Big game coming up this week. We go from our homecoming victory at home, 44-0 over Southfield A&T, to being the opponent on the road, hoping to spoil Clarkston's homecoming Friday night, 7 o'clock. Stay tuned for more information on our coverage later on in the program and, of course, on CivicCenterTV.com. We'll take a quick break and come back with more on This Week in Laker Football. 3 split out to the strong side left for Southfield A&T. Porter outside of the pocket. Getting chased, getting slammed. Oh, baby. Jeremiah Benson with sack number 5.
Oh, my.
Live, local, social. Dive into your community with the Splash Live. Coverage of events and exciting developments in the greater West Bloomfield area. Join Tyler Keefe, Kevin McIntosh, and the rest of our staff live out on the street or in our studio. Weekdays live on Comcast Channel 15 or on AT&T at Channel 99. Watch us online too on Facebook at Civic Center TV 15, on YouTube at Civic Center TV, or on our website, CivicCenterTV.com.
We've got news. Civic Center TV just reached 1 million views on YouTube. Over the years, we've filed over 10,000 stories. We've covered local parades and events, life-saving efforts by first responders, remarkable accomplishments of local individuals, state championship athletic teams, and our area's history, government, and the people who volunteer to make our community better. Civic Center TV on cable, online, and on social media, now with over 1 million views on YouTube. Civic Center TV, thanks for watching. You're 1 in a million.
Welcome back to This Week in Laker Football, your exclusive weekly look into the varsity football team at West Bloomfield High School on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. I'm Tyler Keefe. Joining me in this segment is the Lakers defensive coordinator, Coach Ron Jones, with us on the program. And impressive first few weeks for your Laker defense, 2 shutouts at home and a couple of low-scoring games in between that for teams that tend to put a lot of points on the board. Give us your review of these first 4 weeks from your defense and your positives and negatives from them so far.
Well, we've been really playing some lights-out football here these last couple of weeks. Barring the game against Groves where we kind of gave up a little more than we wanted to, we missed a lot of tackles. So we basically been getting back to the fundamentals like, tackling. But I do think that we came into these first 4 games prepared. We watched a lot of film, prepared really well for the opponent, and it kind of showed on the field. So Things that we can try to do better, obviously tackling, let them hats to the ball at all times, making sure we understanding our assignments and things of that nature. So I'm feeling really confident going into this week's game against Clarkston, which we haven't won there in a long time. It's what I keep hearing. So hopefully we can change that this week. That's the mindset this week.
Yeah, a little something to sweeten the deal with these young players to say, look, you can make some West Bloomfield history here, break the streak a little bit, go into Clarkston and pick up a really big win. And that's kind of the interesting thing with this defense is they've shown out these first 4 weeks, but that's really the younger side of this team coming into 2024. How impressed have you been with those underclassmen and those upperclassmen that have stepped into some pretty big roles this year?
Well, the upperclassmen have been tutoring the younger guys really well. So they're giving them a really good somebody to look up to out on the field, being, leaders in the classroom and the way they approach the day, right? So everybody's kind of looking at the upperclassmen to kind of lead the way. But I've been having a lot of my younger guys actually step up and make plays and get more into the film and more into the preparation, because that's how, when you prepare for the game is easy, right? The more you know, the more film you watch, the easier your job is on Friday night. So I think we've been doing collectively as a unit a really good job of preparing and watching film and just understanding everything that the team likes to do to try to combat that on the field. So through these first 4 weeks, I think we're doing pretty decent, but I know we can get a lot better. We still haven't played our best football yet.
We got a dynamic duo a year ago like Jonathan Gabriel and Brandon Davis swaying on the edges. That's a tough act to follow, but a dynamic duo that's been developing this season, Josh Bryant and Jeremiah Benson, who both lead this team in sacks, picked up an assisted sack with each other last week as well as one individually for Jeremiah. How crucial have they been to that front four in 2024, building that into that next generation of a really stout line?
Yeah, well, those guys work really, really, really hard this offseason in the weight room. I was here with Coach Eddie Wilson, who's the D-line coach and also the strength and conditioning coach. So we really put a point of emphasis in getting a lot stronger, and it's kind of showing on the football field when we do our job. Like when we keep our pad level low, then we're really driving guys out of there. But those guys are working extremely hard and giving us a great look up front for the unit, right? So, I think we can get better. This would be a tough task for us this week, but it's not a task that I don't think we're up to. I think we go out there and, and show them what we got out there in Clarkston.
And taking that mindset of having tough days in the gym, tough days on the football field, and that begins from the first practice to the present. How does that help you set up what you need to go into Clarkston this week, and especially throughout the rest of this OAA Red division season, to make that strong push forward as we hit the midseason point?
Well, Coach, this right here is a really big test for us, and I think we're up to the task. We'll get the intensity up real high this week. Super aggressive, flying around, assignment football, tackling well, and I think once we do that, the mindset will be what it's been the first 4 weeks, right? So what we really want to do is we really want to go over there and set the tone as far as how we want the game to be played, right? We want a lot of 3-and-outs. We want to force some turnovers, which we've been doing a pretty good job of these first 4 games. I believe we got 3 turnovers with 3 touchdowns. We got 21 points, I think, we scored through the first 4 games on defense. 1 block punt and a punt return for a touchdown last week against Southfield. But if we can keep that momentum up, we're also giving the offense more chances for them to score, which is playing some team ball, right? So anything we do is trying to complement the offense and try to give them more of a chance to put that ball in the end zone, right? So, my unit, man, they playing some really good ball. The coaching staff, though, Coach Keith Cameron with the preparation, the hours of film, and just making sure everything is where it needs to be. Coach Eddie Wilson, defensive line coach, myself coaching the linebackers, and Coach Zach Hilbers, overseeing the overall thing. I think we've been doing a really, really good job of making sure the guys are prepared for the task that's in front of them on Friday night. So.
And being coachable from the player perspective, that's got to play a factor in that too. A younger team, it seems like they really are listening to those lessons that your very experienced coaches are giving to them this season.
Yeah, they're pretty locked in. And, like we told them, man, the more you understand your job, the easier the game is on Friday night. So, understanding how a guy wants to attack you from the offensive side of the ball gives you an advantage defensively. Being in the right place at the right time, understanding your assignment, and just going out there and just focusing on your job. So I think we go into Clarkston. I think we set the tone early. I'm looking to get an early turnover to kind of set the tone, take the crowd out of it a little bit, because they got a really good fan base over there. So we know what we got up against us, but we're not going to flinch. We're not going to flinch at all.
Take the hype in that homecoming crowd at Clarkston, use that as fuel. That's what we're going to be seeing from this Laker defense coming up in week number 5. Coach Ron, thanks for your time.
Well, no problem. Thank you.
We'll take a break on This Week in Laker Football. On the other side, Coach Hilbers will rejoin me over here. We'll preview that big game coming up on the road in Clarkston. Stay tuned for more on our coverage on civiccentertv.com/LakerSports. This Week in Laker Football. We'll be right back. Out of the shotgun, Bowens looking to the sideline, picked off, going the other way. Here come the Lakers. And he's going to waltz right on into the end zone. A touchdown for Chops Pittman. Pick 6, number 2 on the season.
Yeah, we mentioned earlier on that tip pass how if he was able to come down with it, he might have been gone for 6. Right here, he jumps another route towards that boundary and takes it back for 6. And I mean, just a phenomenal job in pass coverage so far this year by Chops Pittman. He has been a very versatile piece for this defense, in both his ability as a pass rusher, but also his athleticism as a pass coverage.
Hello, my name is Danya Bazzi. I'm the superintendent of West Bloomfield School District. I want to congratulate Civic Center TV on hitting the amazing milestone of 1 million viewers. Your involvement in our community doesn't go unnoticed. We thank you for keeping our residents and community engaged in the latest and greatest news and information. I'm Danya Bazzi, and I'm proud to be 1 in a million.
Watch West Bloomfield Lakers football all season long on 89.3 Lakes FM and Civic Center TV. Join Tyler Keefe and Matt Catoni each week for live, in-depth, and exclusive coverage before, during, and after the big game. It's your local high school football team on the road and in your backyard on your home for West Bloomfield Laker football, Civic Center TV, and 89.3 Lakes FM.
Welcome back to This Week in Laker Football, your exclusive weekly look into the West Bloomfield Lakers varsity football team all throughout their 2024 campaign. I'm Tyler Keefe, alongside Zach Hilbers on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. So now you go back out on the road. Similar story throughout the season. Yeah. Really tough environment as you go in to Clarkston this Friday, and it's homecoming night out there, and that's a heck of a team that Coach Pintar has over there.
Yeah, I mean, they've been really good for a really long time, and I don't know whether it's homecoming or not for them. They have a great crowd, great atmosphere, great environment, so it's going to be tough no matter what. So the fact that it's homecoming for them, maybe it's even tougher, who knows, but I already think it's hard going there to play anyway.
It's tough to play Clarkston at home. It's tough to play Clarkston on the road. That team just seems to be really a tried and true program in high school football, and that you've got a long history as an assistant coach with West Bloomfield, now as head coach, similarly for Coach Justin Pinter over there with Clarkston, and really we've seen that identity build over the years, even last year's contest with them, and they're coming back with 24 returning players in that starting lineup. How tough of a matchup do you foresee this being for your Lakers?
Really tough, like really difficult. Like they have a ton of really good football players that they throw out there both sides of the ball, like the Bowman twins that play running back and safety and linebacker. They got a kid that plays receiver and safety that's pretty good. Quarterback looks awesome, sophomore, young kid, but he's playing with a ton of confidence, like he's been there forever. And like you look at their team last year, they had a bunch of stars and they were really good at getting them the ball, and they were obviously a very good team. And right now, like those stars have graduated, they're playing in college, but these kids they have now just makes the same type of plays, and they might not be the names the other guys were, but the production's right there.
Yeah, I think about last year's game, the dynamic duo between Brady Collins and Desmond Stevens. Neither of them at Clarkston now. Desmond Stevens at USC and Brady Collins having transferred to U of D, but Alex Wazenko and Brady Beck have become quite a dynamic duo on the offensive side. Going to create quite a challenge for your defense this week.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, Beck's the kid I was talking about that plays receiver and safety, number 22, and he runs jets for him. He catches passes, makes tackles on the kickoff team and on defense. Like he's a really good player.
And they're a versatile team, too. Like you said, a lot of those guys are bouncing over from offense and defense in key positions, playing the full 48 minutes and making a lot of plays. How does that then translate back to the performance your team just had, that laser focus on the sideline, that execution for the full 48 minutes? How important is that going to be to repeat on the road in Clarkston this week?
Well, it's important whether those guys are playing both sides of the ball or not, I guess, because they're a really good team. And I told them, like, I don't know how the game's going to go. Could be low scoring, could be a shootout. But I can almost guarantee you it's going to be a battle in the second half. And it's our job to make sure we stand up and make those plays when we need to win the game.
In terms of limiting those playmakers, it's something you talked about. They got guys like Beck and Wazenko who are playing lights out all throughout the season, but you got some playmakers too. So how do you match up with what they've got on your side with some of your more talented players that are in those matchup positions? What are you saying to them as they go through this week and prep for arguably their toughest individual matchups of the season?
Yeah, so some of our older guys have played them a few times, and they know that we can have success against them, and they know that we can, lose to them too. So they've seen both sides of it, and hopefully that helps you understand what it takes to be on the right side of that. Clarkston doesn't usually make a ton of mistakes, so if you make mistakes, they're going to beat you. And if you both don't make mistakes, then it's going to be a really close, hard-fought battle, like you saw them with Belleville in week 1, who's obviously a very good team. So, the experience definitely helps in some of those key spots, but when it comes down to it, we got high school kids, they got high school kids, we got to be the better team on Friday.
It comes down to that preparation. It's the reason these teams practice so hard all throughout the week, spend so much time in the film room. Games like this, you really need that. With the Lakers going into Clarkston Friday night, 7 o'clock, we'll do our best to have our live coverage for you right here on Civic Center TV, definitely on the radio as well on 89.3 Lakes FM. You talk about that schedule they've had. They kicked off the season against Belleville, just a 7-point loss. And then last week they go into Rochester Adams again, and much like your team there, close game throughout, and Rochester Adams just edged them out at the end of that ball game, ended up being a 10-28 game. And what does that say about the competition that you're going up against over these next few weeks, that you can have these battle-tested teams that are veteran teams going up against yours in a very similar situation?
Yeah, well, I think that our entire division's like that without, looking ahead to Lake Orion and Oxford. You can be in battles with those guys too. Clarkston certainly was 2 weeks ago. And you can definitely win every game, but you can also lose every game too if you don't, do what you're supposed to. I think Clarkston's a really good team. They're 2-2. I think we're a pretty good team. We're 2-2. And the reality is that one of us is going to be 2-3 next week. We really don't want that to be us. So you got to understand the situation. As dire as we might think things are for us, and needing to win, they're in the exact same situation. They're a really good football team that wants to be 3-2 and not 2-3.
And you're not trying to collect feathers in your cap for the rest of the season or to check boxes throughout the year. But you look at this lineup right now. Lake Orion taking a loss last week. Clarkston taking a loss already this season. Oxford, of course, losing last week to Clarkston. And now Rochester Adams, that last team really looking to pick up something in the L column. This week could have some big implications on the fallout of the ultimate result of the OAA and also playoff implications. Does that play into at all the importance of this week coming out with a victory?
Yeah, for sure. We talk about our number one goal is to win the league. Right now, it's still alive, but we need some help. Someone else has to beat Adams because we didn't do that. But if we beat Clarkston, Lake Orion, and Oxford, we're at least in the discussion for it. And even if that goal isn't achieved like it wasn't a year ago for us, our next goal is to host a playoff game. So we need to win games and to be able to be eligible for that as well. Neither one of them are going to be easy, but at least it should keep us focused because all the stuff we talked about in August and stuff is still in front of us, and we still control a lot of it.
Playing in the league as tough as the OAA, and these teams pick up their hard-fought victories against tough programs. You build those playoff points up, you put yourself in a very opportune position each and every time you put one in the win column. Coach, thanks so much.
Yeah, you got it. Thank you.
We'll be back with you on Friday night for West Bloomfield versus Clarkston. Stay tuned for more information on our coverage on civiccentertv.com/Lakersports. For the entire program here at West Bloomfield High School and their athletic department, alongside head coach Zach Hilbers, I'm Tyler Kieft. Thanks for tuning in to This Week in Laker Football.